Maybe it's because I'm past the age that I have to start counting my grey hairs in square inches, but the central pitch of playing a James Bond video game has lost its effect somewhat. Have you ever imagined being James Bond? Jet-setting to glamorous international locations and very deliberately avoiding eye contact with poor people? Yes, and it all seems terribly exhausting. I watch the end of a typical James Bond film and I think, wait, you're gonna shag a hot lady right now? You just beat up all the bad guys and escaped from an exploding doom fortress. I'd have thought you'd be ready for a sleep. If it were me, I'd be too preoccupied with thoughts of filing my collateral damage report to be in the mood for a muff dive right now. But then I've never been shortlisted for the role. 007 First Light is the origin story of MI6 super spy James Bond. Which one, you might ask? Well, it's set in a contemporary time period, so none of the established ones. They don't put an exact year on it, but they keep mentioning His Majesty's Secret Service, so it's got to be recent. I assume they're not talking about George VI, or I don't know, Aslan. The game comes to us from IO Interactive, best known for the Hitman series, and isn't this a pairing written in the fucking stars? Who would be best suited to make a game about infiltrating various high-class locales as an omnicompetent, secretive, violent bastard with a codename ending in 7, and who pulls off a suit really well? You got a moment, IO Interactive, if you can take time away from fending off demands for Kane and Lynch 3. Of course, James Bond and Agent 47 have very different personalities, meaning that James Bond has one. So there are some necessary differences in, for want of a better word, execution. Gameplay-wise, First Light goes back and forth between Hitman-style open-ended levels full of stealth, challenge and social engineering opportunities and Uncharted-style linear action set-pieces, which altogether is much more Bondy, much more getting a suntan on Bondi Beach, if you will. Because where Agent 47 is always in control, James Bond is not. He starts out looking cool, infiltrating a high-class drinks do, slyly giving random women orgasms with his remote joy buzzer cufflinks, but sooner or later the format demands he's going to have to fuck up, in a way that means he has to drive a stolen Lamborghini through Michelangelo's statue of David, and then bludgeon someone to death with a stone penis. And I have to admit, I was won over in the end. My concern at the prospect of playing an origin story is that you could make an action game about literally any fuckface with a gun and call it a James Bond game, but before he was James Bond. But this was unwarranted. First Light hits all the right notes. The dude looks like a young amalgam of every James Bond actor. He's got Connery's eyebrows, Dalton's nose, Roger Moore's slightly weak jawline. There's gunfights, punch-ups, fast cars, hot mysterious birds and the shagging thereof, and of course gadgets. MI6 apparently being perfectly happy giving their expensive experimental tech to trainees, because of course the British government's just had money to burn since Brexit caused that massive economic boom, ironic tone of voice. The plot opens with young James Bond, or James Bond Jr. if you will, as a lowly air crewman who single-handedly destroys a criminal operation after the rest of his team are killed, after which MI6 calls him in and goes, "We want you to work directly for the government, because you refused to listen to professional advice and destroyed a whole bunch of shit." And that's the kind of attitude that could make you Prime Minister someday. From there we go through a somewhat unprecedented concept, a playable training montage, cutting rapidly between the punching tutorial, the shooting tutorial, and the doing press-ups tutorial, which will come in handy when the shagging of hot ladies comes into things. After that, Bond starts going on missions, and from there the plot becomes a smidge predictable. The no-nonsense mentor does the mentoring, the mysterious love interest does mysterious things, and, well, if you don't immediately identify who the evil mastermind turns out to be the very first time they appear on screen, then I don't know what to tell you, frankly, except to take more comprehension tests. But if James Bond wanted to surprise us, he'd go to Alcoholics Anonymous and start forming meaningful relationships with people, none of which would be terribly interesting to watch, so as you were, James Bond, you fucking nutcase. So as I say, about half the missions are Hitman-style open-ended levels where the prime strategy is using your gadget phone that's about one step removed from a magic wand to futz with random electronics, distracting guards long enough for you to grab the thing they're guarding, give them the old anesthetic sucker punch, or gain access to the ridiculously large ventilation shafts apparently designed to simultaneously circulate air and transport cattle between rooms. But in contrast to Agent 47, Bond actually has charisma, which means if he gets caught behind enemy lines, he has options other than scowlingly hurling a steam iron at someone's face. Hence the bluff mechanic, wherein you can press a button and Bond confidently rattles off an excuse for why he's here and why he's pulling down an unconscious bellhop's trousers, and the nearby enemies will buy it for just long enough for you to confidently speedwalk the fuck to the next room. Very authentic and quite satisfying to pull off, although in practical terms it's essentially an extra life system for when you fuck up the stealth, and you need a certain amount of stamina or energy or mojo or whatever it is to pull it off. A resource most easily restored by knocking people out, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense in context, that you have to desperately snuggle 4 guys to help you remember how to be a nice civilized person. But never mind, the Hitman style gameplay tends to be easier and with fewer options than straight Hitman Classic, but that's what you should expect when it's woven into a larger tapestry of gameplay that also has to involve beating the shit out of people and driving cars into things that aren't garages. Thus, linear action set pieces, but the standard combat's got a psychotic improvisational flair to it that I found rather appealing. Bond goes absolutely Daniel Craig on motherfuckers. You run out of bullets, throw your empty gun at the closest guy, charge in and just go bugfuck, shoving, kicking, smashing heads into walls and desks, randomly grabbing expensive ornaments off shelves and pounding them into faces, generally attacking with the frenzied desperation of someone who knows that 4 other guys in the room are already aiming their guns and will draw a bead the instant you stop to breathe or shake the teeth off your lapels. levels. So to get to some kind of summary, stealth's good, action's good. I think we did it, boys. It's a James Bond game, with a plot that's enjoyable if not mind-blowing, and which goes on a touch too long. 3 fucking times it feels like it's ending and then keeps going. Thwart bad guy, save world. Whoops, not quite done. New chapter. Thwart other bad guy, save world again. Oh shit, we didn't sufficiently thwart the first bad guy. Thwart him more thoroughly, save world. Maybe this time remember to put a fucking fence around the world or something. Man, how much thwarting do you expect me to do today? I need to save some thwarting energy for when I go to softball practice.